And good evening, sports fans, and a warm welcome to you here at the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. Today is Tuesday, September the 24th, 2024, and we're coming to you live from the Haskell House in the heart of downtown Clarion, Pennsylvania, and I am your host, Mike Kalinowski.
And I'm Bob Dunkle.
Yes, you are, aren't you? He's back, folks. And, well, Bob, we're getting set here for tonight's show. Do want to thank our great sponsors, as always, of course, Redbank Chevrolet and Dubrook. And we're going to have a lot of sponsors that we're going to talk about as we go through this week and each and every week with the sports show. But kind of wild to think about another season on the way. We're already halfway through the football season for high school, and things are just moving right along.
That's the amazing part, halfway. All of that work that goes into it in the off season, you're already halfway done.
Yeah, and tonight we're going to have a football theme to the show this evening, and we will have a little volleyball in there too a little bit later on. We're going to talk about quarterbacks right off the bat, and I probably think most of you know who some of those quarterbacks are going to be, some of the big ones in District 9. We're also going to talk about some of the run games of some of the teams that are in the forefront. Excuse me. So, you know, all of those things is part of tonight's show. So it's going to have a pretty thick football theme to it here, local football too, which is kind of nice.
Certainly is. I'm just happy to be part of it. Glad I'm along for the ride.
Well, you're back, so we had to give you something to do. Your wife was already calling saying, he's confused, he's walking around, he doesn't know what's going on.
A little bit of truth to that.
So we'll have that for you tonight. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the college football that's coming up too. Of course, teams that Bob and I like and Jake back there are all doing pretty well this season as far as that goes. So we'll have that for you. We'll talk a little bit about, like I said, the running game for some of these teams, quarterbacks, so passing, running, all that stuff. We're going to go over the rankings too, and the standings around it. I know a few of the teams are getting some notice. Redbank Valley's an honorable mention, I know, in the state, and Central Clarion's ranked third in the state. So we'll talk about some of those things as well.
Can't wait.
All right. So we're going to take our first time out. We're going to come back out here, and we will have more for you as we'll get set up. We're going to talk to Bob a little bit, find out what he's been up to since he kind of escaped from us last year, and then we're going to get into some of the quarterbacks and talk about them, and that's all coming up here on the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show, live from the Haskell House. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more after this.
You can afford a gorgeous, custom-designed hardwood Kale's Kitchen for a lot less than you'd pay at a DIY store. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. At Kale's, there are never middleman markups or hidden charges that can add 40%. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. That's FactoryDirectKitchens.net.
At Clarion County Community Bank, you're more than just a number. With personalized service and modern conveniences, they make banking easy. Clarion County Community Bank, where community comes first.
All right, welcome back to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. Here on exploreClarion.com, we're coming to you from the historic Haskell House in downtown Clarion. And, well, Robert, Bob Dunkle, the big return, the governor, I had some people text me and they go, was that the governor I heard on that broadcast? And you certainly got people's attention with the game on Friday night.
I did surprise a few people. Some people knew that I was planning to return back. Obviously, I had spent the last year down in Port Charlotte, Florida. Wonderful place and enjoyed myself, but I wanted to return home. Missed a few things.
One thing, too, while you were away, you were always a part of the broadcast. You know that. And you would always text us and keep in line, you know, with scores and all kinds of different things. But, you know, it was just kind of odd not having you right there. And I'm sure it was odd for you, too. You know, what was that like last year? You know, you were down there and we're broadcasting a game and you weren't part of it.
It was very challenging, to say the least, because you know, Dave did certainly a great job. You know, exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations. Did a fantastic job, but there were certain things that I would think, well, you know, I would probably say this, but he still obviously handled it his own way and did a great job at it. And I missed it, and I was glad and fortunate to be able to relay scores and do some things like that, talk to you guys occasionally about audio levels, things of that nature, let you know what was going on. So I was fortunate to still be part of it, and you know, I'm thankful obviously for modern technology, being able to text constantly and being an active part. Mike, this fly has loved me ever since I've walked in here tonight.
It's been at me, it's been at you. I don't know. Apparently we must be.
I'm sweet.
We're
guess,
delicious
right?
or something. I don't know. Yeah, it could be. But so you're back in the area. Any big plans for yourself as far as like during the daytime? You gonna look at some things?
I continue to walk quite a bit since I arrived last week, but continue my routine of walking. Want to keep the weight down, that good stuff. I am going to be next month going to be going to Idaho hunting for about almost 2 full weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. It's always an adventure out there. Right now, they've got a bunch of wildfires that certainly have been a challenge, and they're right in the area of woods where I hunt. So it's going to be interesting to see. That'll be a little different, but nonetheless, I'm still going. October 13th through the 26th.
Yeah. What's been the biggest surprise coming back? I guess is it. I know when we were at the game, I don't know how many people stopped in and they were like, Bob, and they had shook your hand and all that stuff. But I was really impressed.
That's a big part of the surprise, I think, because sometimes you wonder, does anybody listen? Does anybody even notice that whether you're doing this? Does anybody notice that you're even gone? And I've had a few people notice and comment on it. So it's been a lot of fun. And as I'm walking along my routine, I live in New Bethlehem. As I'm walking along, I've had a lot of people stop, and I've given probably more hugs in the last 7 days or so than what I have probably in the last 7 years. It's kind of crazy how that works out, but it's good to be missed, and certainly it's good to be back. I will miss the weather of South Florida. I will miss the beaches, and I'll miss the food. I won't miss the traffic, the taxes, and the insurance. And right now, there's a little thing called a tropical storm/hurricane heading in my direction. So
yeah, my daughter texted me today and said, "I think it's good that Bob moved." It's like, they're used to it down there. He'd be fine.
All I'm thinking of is at the rate my insurance was going up, I'm thinking, could you imagine what's going to happen if this does hit, if this does do a lot of damage? So certainly my heart and head goes out to a lot of the people that I got to know that are still there, and I wish them nothing but the best of luck. What's interesting in my role down there, although I was working where the Tampa Rays train, the county technically is who I work for. So I received a text today saying, hey, you may be called to work Friday. And I thought, good luck with that.
Well, you could tell your wife Laura, say, well, I got to get on a plane. I got a job on Friday here.
I'm thinking I'll come up with an excuse to stay here.
Well, I did understand too at the Peanut Butter Festival, you had a stand set up and you were shaking people's hands and autographs. So.
Well, now we're getting a little crazy. That's
well, I did say this to him.
That's the latitude of the truth.
And this is true. I said I finally got rid of that crazy Dolphins hat, and then I got stuck with Cadis with his Pittsburghese, and then last week I had both of you. I was standing there like, what is this? I had the Dolphin hat back and Cadis with his vernacular.
You like the punishment. You live for the punishment.
I guess, maybe. I don't know. But no, it's great to have you back, Bob. And certainly I know you were missed. And just the number of people that commented, I think they're really happy you're back. And they heard you on that broadcast. And I thought last week it was a lot of fun.
Well, now, now you've got two of us at the same time together in broadcast booths. So we're both going to beat up equally.
That's
How's that
okay.
sound?
Hey, we were all comm majors at Clarion. We all come from the same background, so we know each other very, very well, don't we?
It was a lot of fun Friday, and we're going to have even more fun this Friday.
That's right. We'll be down at Karn City coming up this week. And we're going to talk about Karn City, too, as we go through tonight. And when we talk about, too, some of the quarterbacks in this league, we're going to kind of shift gears now. It is amazing. And because you've also played in this league as a kid years and years and years ago, as we go through this, I want to throw a few questions off of you. But when we talk about some of these quarterbacks, and Jace Ferguson is the first one we're going to talk about. And Jace, how about that? He last week became the second leading touchdown passer in District 9. And that's just amazing. We've seen him since he was a freshman, and he was something special back then, and has just been on fire. And the main reason why that Central Clarion Wildcat team is in the position they're in again.
He puts up video numbers. How do you defend against those type of numbers? It's amazing to see that and how much he has grown over the course of his career as a player. I got to see him, obviously, some of his first few games, and to see the maturity level take place. But he's got a great offensive line around him. He's got good skill position players around him. He's got a total team package around him. And I think if you were to talk to him, I'm sure he'd be the first guy to tell you that it's not about him. He's able to do those things because he's got the guys to work with.
Well, and we talked about that too. And I'll tell you what, one thing about Central Clarion, they have probably one of the most experienced lines that you're going to see around the league. And of course, it's anchored by Jimmy Kerr. And Jimmy has aspirations, I know. He's going to play at a school, pretty good sized school when he graduates. But the rest of the guys, you have Brendan Bracken, you have Matt Alston, you have Braden Carrier and Gavin Hanold, or just a few of those guys, but they interchange people too. And that is just a huge reason, and I know Ferguson would say the same thing, why he's been able to do that when you mentioned that.
It is, and they have just so much strength, and it is hard to challenge him. And even when you do get pressure on him, he's a guy that can, you talk about the touchdowns, that guy is explosive running the football. Mm-hmm. He can make things happen with his legs, with his arms. He's that total high school quarterback that you're looking for. Coach's dream, basically.
Oh, 100%. And because of that, too, because of that line and what Ferguson can do, you see several weeks ago we had the game with Du Bois, and Du Bois came in, scored first. And I'll tell you what, we were like, oh, boy, here we go. Clarion was able to come back, Central Clarion, and score and tie it, and then Du Bois went up 14-7, the Wingard kid over Du Bois. We'll talk about him, too, coming up. Phenomenal job. But Clarion, because of that big line, because of the things that Ferguson can do, it just wears people down. And you could see that as time went on, and that's something that if you're going to play this team, you're going to have to contend with.
Yeah, typically when you're facing guys that are that much bigger and stronger than you, you can hang with them for a little bit, but eventually you wear down. When you don't have that size, when you don't have that strength, it takes its toll.
Yeah, and when we talk about Jace Ferguson too, of course, he is just behind Matt Bottomer, and we know Bottomer well from games with Port Allegheny, threw for 137 touchdowns. Now, Bottomer is already coaching. He's up at Kane, so, at some point, Bottomer's going to get, because Kane's had a couple rough seasons, but I think with his experience and background, he's going to get that ship moving in the right direction too. But Ferguson still needs, 27 touchdown passes. Not out of the question. You still have 5 regular season games. Who knows how many playoff games? And you have the District 9 playoffs. You also have the state playoffs if they would get through. I say if. I think a lot of people think that will happen. So it's within the realm of
There's
possibility.
a lot of football ahead for that entire team.
So, those are the things. And when we talk about, I was looking here, there was something I wanted to say about, but with those great quarterbacks, and I was going back to you, and you played years and years ago in this league, but how has the quarterback position changed? Because when you played, you go back to Jim Kelly when he played, and people were like, well, didn't see him pass a lot and this and that, but you knew he was a special athlete. How has that position changed since then?
Night and day. If you go back to really throughout most of the 80s until about fall of 87, you only played 9 games at best. You had the opportunity to play a 10th game, which was at that time the Little 12 championship, but through 9 games. It was a big deal to see a quarterback become a 1,000-yard passer. That was a big deal. Now guys do it in 3 games or less. I mean, it's just unreal how it's changed. And of course, back then it was a run-happy league. Very seldom did teams score much over, a lot of points in a game were 35 points. Defense dominated everything. There was an emphasis on it. But these kids now, they're video game numbers. They really are. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I can describe it, because they're going to pass a lot more. They're pass happy. Back then, you had 1 or 2 teams who liked to throw the ball. Typically, most teams would throw the ball certainly less than 15 times a game. Back then, too, and it sounds crazy, but a lot of coaches really only had maybe 20 plays in their playbook. 10 plays happened to be the right side, 10 plays happened to be the left side, but you ran the 10 to perfection, and that was it. And you won, and it was usually a case of you didn't really hardly ever fool anybody, but you ran those plays well and to perfection. It was a matter of, can you stop those plays as you're preparing against it? But now you got 70-page playbook. There's so much out there. The quarterbacks of today are making decisions based on what the defense is, so the receiver has to be on the same page. Completely changed. Back then it was a defined route, maybe a slight adjustment between a quarterback and receiver, and they got that because they threw the football around the backyard forever since they were 9 or 10 years old. So yeah, it's changed big time. It's like comparing an apple to an orange. I always tell everybody this, that doesn't mean that those quarterbacks in the 70s and 80s weren't good athletes or good quarterbacks. It's like comparing an apple to an orange. They're both pieces of fruit. They taste fantastic. They are completely different. It's not fair to compare them.
Yeah, and I think if you come back in another, we've been out of school how many years? 35 years about. It'll be different again, I think, and
I'll
it'll
guarantee.
continue to change.
Every era, as time goes by, people forget things. They forget how maybe a game was played or the way, and sometimes the opposite happens where guys all of a sudden get faster, stronger, quicker, bigger. So time will tell.
Well, I'm sure will. Need to take a break coming up. We're going to talk more about some quarterbacks. We're going to talk about a young man from down there in the great Redbank Valley, Bob's neck of the woods. That's coming up, so we'll take a time out. You're watching the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show live from the Haskell House tonight here in downtown Clarion, and it's on exploreSportsPA.com.
Your eyes are the window to your soul, so take care of them. The Laurel Eye Clinic provides complete care from annual exams, glasses and contacts to cataract and retinal surgery, LASIK and more. As a trusted leader in family eye care for 50 years, you can trust them with yours. Call or visit us online today.
The Cooper Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT, our most trusted truck tire, is now better than ever and available for your truck or SUV. They're designed for the reliability and durability to find adventure beyond the pavement and are backed by a Cooper mileage warranty of up to 65,000 miles. Learn more about the reliable Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT at CooperTire.com. Count on Cooper. Or stop by Carly Tires in Clarion. Carly Tires, the area's largest selection of tires. Need reliable plumbing or heating services? Call Luton's Plumbing and Heating. Fast, friendly, and available 24/7. Call them at 814-226-8695.
Hi, my name is Jason and welcome to Sweet Basil. Come on in.
This game is brought to you by Tionesta Builders? No, Tionesta Builder Supply. Family-owned and operated home improvement centers located in Tionesta and Shippenville.
Dubrook is your trusted ready-mix concrete supplier. From commercial to residential, Dubrook has you covered. Call 1-844-DUBROOK or visit dubrooking.com. Dubrook is proud to support our local communities. Dubrook, your solid choice in all things concrete.
You can afford a gorgeous, custom-designed hardwood Kales kitchen for a lot less than you'd pay at a DIY store. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. At Kales, there are never middleman markups or hidden charges that can add 40%. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. That's FactoryDirectKitchens.net.
And welcome back to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show here from the Haskell House in downtown Clarion. Mike Kalinowski along with the Governor Bob Dunkle tonight, and Tyler Oakes behind the computer over there. Jake's in the house as well this evening. We got the whole crew here. They got their eyes on us, Bob, as we continue to talk. We were talking quarterbacks. We talked about Jace Ferguson and his great numbers and what he means to that Central Clarion football team. But let's go down into your neck of the woods, the land that you built down there, right along the great Redbank Creek. And we're going to talk about Braylon Wagner and another quarterback. Same thing you could talk about him. I mean, this kid can run. Same as Jace, this kid can throw. I know this year they're letting him run a little bit more, which is something that a lot of people were waiting for. But he's thrown this year for already over 1,600 yards, completed 105 of 170 passes. 332 yards a game is what he's averaging. It's just, those are huge numbers, and you know, he's still got a little ways to go. He still has another year next year yet. So,
you know, I think the big question coming into the season, obviously they graduated a wealth of talent. So the question is, well, let's just find out how good he is. Well, you've asked the question, now you've got the answer. He's very good. That's how good he is. Putting those types of numbers up, I love to watch his decision making. You know, I've had the opportunity to catch many of their games as I was sitting in Florida, and again, he has just that feel of the pocket. He rolls. Sometimes when you have that much talent, there's a tendency you may want to try and do too much. He does the right things. He does, from a maturity standpoint, again, he is playing far beyond his age and his academic standing. He's a fun guy. He makes those good decisions, and he makes them quickly. Mm-hmm. He doesn't drag his feet. You know, the numbers, again, that average, 332 yards, that's impressive. The fact that he's had 2 400-yard plus games this season already. Again, these numbers, and keep in mind, here's a guy who, oh, by the way, had to start a game on a Monday and come away as a winner. Oh, by the way, had to start a game on Friday, come away as a winner. Obviously didn't have the normal preparation. Mm-hmm. You know, they're thrown out of the routine. Never missed a beat.
Yeah, and that's something for a high school kid too, because remember, you know, we talk about this all the time. These are student athletes. So not only do they have that game to prepare for, but they also have their studies and things like that. So, you know, Monday he's in school doing all that stuff, and then playing in the game, and then he's got his studies the rest of the week plus practice, and to come out it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, not many high school coaches get to say from the varsity level that, hey, we're 2-0 in a 5-day stretch.
Yeah, few. And, you know, and we're actually, you know, talking about that about the Monday night game, and I think the only night we haven't done a game during the week is what, a Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah, because we've been on, but it was kind of interesting, and who knows now with things as they get canceled and moved around what will happen. But when we continue about Braylon Wagner, one interesting thing too, he has 2 guys, really talented receivers he likes to go to. Jackson Huffman's one already with 30 receptions, and then Rylan Roop, 30 receptions as well. And we've done several of their games already, and it's just amazing. And those guys, it just seems like because of the relationship they have and the time they've spent, are just on the same page. You see that a lot too with Ferguson from Central Clarion, with Burford and some of the other receivers. But these 2 guys, it's just amazing when you watch them run their patterns, go downfield, and how they come back a lot of times to help him.
Well, no question. In both those offenses, and especially that Redbank offense, it's predicated on decision making. The receiver and the quarterback have to absolutely be on the same page. If they are, it looks great. If not, you may see an ugly interception or ball thrown to no man's land, because maybe for whatever reason they weren't on the same page. It's so hard to get, again, student athletes, and I'm not making excuses for anybody, but it's so hard to get guys to get to that level, to get to that point. And when you see it, it is something special to watch those guys come back. And you know, you mentioned about Jackson Huffman and Rylan Roop. Those guys come back, they get in position, they know when to help their quarterback out, but just the fact that they break off the routes exactly when they should says volumes about them, and also says volumes about, we talk about these athletes, and very seldom do the coaches ever won any recognition. It says a lot about the coaches too, because they've got a good game plan. They're stressing the fundamentals, and they're stressing what they need done in order to come away a winner.
And I think big time too with these teams, when you see success over the years, you see that consistency when it comes to coaching, and I think that you hit the nail on the head with that. You know, we talk about that a lot when we're on our way to games and things, where when you see the coaches that have been there a while, you a lot of times see that success. But, you know, Redbank and Central Clarion are 2 teams, among a few others, that have been able to reload every year, and that's so important. And I know for Central Clarion, it was that ability to join up with Clarion Limestone and North Clarion, because the numbers at those schools were getting so small. For Redbank Valley, you know, they're kind of out there on their own, but they're still able to reload every year with the numbers that they're able to get out.
That's because it's more than a football team, it's a program.
Yep.
And those coaches establish a program, they get players to buy into it, parents to buy into it, administration buys into it, and winning is habit forming. End of the day, it's habit forming, and you're seeing the same thing, obviously, you know, at Central Clarion. That's a big deal up there as well. Mm-hmm. And you see Karn City's done this for years. Get everybody on the same page, and good things are going to happen. It's a total team approach, not necessarily an individual.
Yeah, my basketball coach in high school always used to say, he goes, you always know how successful we were during basketball season by how many kids are out at the hoops by the school shooting around in the spring and summer. And it's the same thing with football. It's the same thing with everything. It's how many of those kids come out for different sports, but also how many kids you have on the team and things like that. So, and winning certainly gets people to want to come out and be a part of it. When we look at other quarterbacks from around the league, we had a chance to see Trey Wingard out of Du Bois. I know you saw some video on Trey, and then, but boy, I'll tell you what, that kid is really good. I really like him. He's tall. He can throw the ball, and I'm just looking down here to make sure I get everything right. He's thrown for over 1,400 yards, excuse me, and 18 touchdowns, and 87 of 134. For Du Bois, Du Bois is one of those teams, I think, that with a little more time, they're relatively young. They could make some noise, and especially with a kid like that.
They can. I think if you talk to almost any coach, they're not going to look by him, number one. And number two, I don't know that they're that excited about playing them. I mean, they look forward to a challenge, certainly, but I don't know that that's always a team you want to run into. Again, because if you got a guy that's put up those kind of numbers, you know, they're not token numbers. They're not mop-up numbers. They're numbers that are earned. And again, he has those physical skills, and he's a tough athlete.
Well, he is, and we talk about who you saw too last week with Bradford, Talon Reese. Took that team down the field a couple times. Very, I'm trying to think of the right words I want to use, but very regimented. Very stuck to the game plan, and they came up with some good drives. We're unable to score on all of them, but 910 yards throwing. He's completed 63% of his passes. Another young kid that here coming up, you know, really could turn that Bradford team around.
And again, you know, that number there, that's a great example of what I mentioned at the top of the show about how the evolution of quarterbacks have changed. That was a big deal years ago to throw for 1,000 yards. He's at 910, and again, we're only halfway through the season at 910 yards, and he's, you know, behind certainly the leaders in the district, but still very impressive numbers.
Yeah, and there's one other we do want to mention too. We talk about young quarterbacks coming along, and I know Mike Kilroy put some numbers together for us here, and I want to thank him for that. But Keystone's Dom Corsetti, sophomore quarterback. He's thrown for almost 600 yards and rushed for almost 300 yards. You know, for a sophomore quarterback kind of being thrown in there, I know Keystone this year, their numbers were down a little bit. Most of those players are young kids. They're 9th, 10th graders. They have a smaller number of upperclassmen. You know, that's a team with a player like that too. When you look at Keystone, that down the road, you know,
well,
good things might
establishing a
happen.
Program, it takes building blocks, and this is one of those building blocks. Again, you take a young player like that, he's only going to continue to flourish. Again, those 587 yards, that's still pretty impressive, again, for a younger athlete like that, and the fact that he's rushed for 277, they're only going to continue to improve, they're only going to continue to get better.
All right, well, we're going to take another time out here, and we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We talked about quarterbacks. Now we're going to talk about some of the running game. Of course, comes to mind with that is Karn City, because they've been running the ball all over the place this year. We'll talk about them and a few other folks as well. So we'll take a time out here. We're going to come back with more for you. You're watching the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show live from the Haskell House here in downtown Clarion, and it is on exploreClarion.com.
At Clarion County Community Bank, you're more than just a number. With personalized service and modern conveniences, they make banking easy. Clarion County Community Bank, where community comes first.
Your eyes are the window to your soul, so take care of them. The Laurel Eye Clinic provides complete care from annual exams, glasses and contacts to cataract and retinal surgery, LASIK, and more. As a trusted leader in family eye care for 50 years, you can trust them with yours. Call or visit us online today.
The Cooper Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT, our most trusted truck tire, is now better than ever and available for your truck or SUV. They're designed for the reliability and durability to find adventure beyond the pavement and are backed by a Cooper mileage warranty of up to 65,000 miles. Learn more about the reliable Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT at CooperTire.com. Count on Cooper. Or stop by Carly Tires in Clarion. Carly Tires, the area's largest selection of tires. Need reliable plumbing or heating services? Call Luton's Plumbing and Heating. Fast, friendly, and available 24/7. Call them at 814-226-8282 8695. This game is brought to you by Tionesta Builders? No. Tionesta Builder Supply. Family owned and operated home improvement centers located in Tionesta and Shippenville.
Dubrook is your trusted ready-mix concrete supplier. From commercial to residential, Dubrook has you covered. Call 1-844-DUBROOK or visit dubrooking.com. Dubrook is proud to support our local communities. Dubrook, your solid choice in all things concrete.
And welcome back to the Main Street Sports Show here from the Haskell House in Clarion, Pennsylvania. Mike Kalinowski, the governor, Bob Dunkle here. It's nice to say that too, with the governor back in town. It's probably nice to be back here, isn't it, Bob?
It is, except it's starting to get a little chilly already. You know, I miss those 97, 98 degree days.
I said to Bob, how are you going to deal with this when we're at like North Clarion on a January night when it's like 12 below zero? And
I'm going to complain.
he will, but he'll smile the whole time. That's what he certainly will. Talked about quarterbacks. How about that running game? Well, when you talk about a running game, how about Karn City? Because they, this year, have really been going right at it, and they're led by Hunter Schurer, as he has really taken I guess the ball to the Storm or whatever. 180 yards against the Chucks last week, and that victory. Good ball game between those two teams too. Very physical ball game. Karn City was able to come out and win that game. Schurer has 401 yards, only 58 carries, 8 touchdowns on the season. How about Karn City as a team? This is the stat that's really interesting. 1,500 yards on the ground in just 4 games of the season, right? 300 yards per game with the 5th week coming in. That's just amazing.
It's going to win you a lot of ball games, is what it's going to do.
Yeah, and it, and for Karn City right now, we had the chance to see them against Du Bois. Du Bois actually came out with the win down there, 46-43. Heck of a ball game. If you haven't seen that game, you might want to go back. It's on YouTube. exploreClarion, you can find it. Fantastic ball game there. Karn City was able to mix a little bit of the run and the pass. They have a very young quarterback in Johnston down there, but doing a phenomenal job for them. But with that, running the football, they were certainly very good there, and the reason why they were able to knock off Punxsutawney here this past week. So we look into the past. I know you and I haven't done the game so long, and Mike, put some names down here I like. You talk about, he says Josh Fiskus and Glenn Toy and Alex Kinkella, Maverick Kelsey, Chandler Turner, Dalton Beam, Luke Gehring.
There's one guy that I'm very surprised he forgot.
Put it
Billy
down.
Graham.
Yeah, touchdown Billy Graham. Yeah, so long history, decades, and it's been the last 30 years at least where Karn City, that has been their focus.
And got to be honest with you, that goes way back further than that, because whenever I was in elementary school, I can remember going to games and watching them play. They were very physical. They had a head coach named Mel Semenko who had played in the Canadian Football League, actually passed away last year, maybe 2 years ago now, but he was an outstanding head coach, and they were very physical, always have been, and really always have been, probably always will be, just the mindset that they are. I think back to There was a guy back in my playing days named Greg Bly, who was also one of these very physical running backs. But they're all tough as nails down there, and it shows. And that's why, again, that's another one of those programs that it's a program. It's around, and it's been consistent, a number of district titles.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, and you talk about that influx too years and years ago, of course, with East Brady closing and a lot of those kids then going down there, and how that changed that program as well. It's always interesting because we go to a few Card City games every year and we broadcast, and you still see that orange and black color. I know I had Dave Cadis there last couple weeks ago, and I said, Dave, see those young kids, it was youth football night, and they came on, they had the Card City colors, and then they had the East Brady colors. And I said, what school, what colors are those from? He goes, well, that's the old Clarion color. I said, well, pick again. And he went, oh, East Brady. I said, yeah. I said, and it's still alive, and that's so nice down there because they have that rich history of those players from East Brady, and they don't hide it at all. They really do celebrate it.
Yep, certainly do.
When we look at some other great runners from around the league too, we have to mention this one, Aiden Bliss of Port Allegheny. We're going to talk about Port Allegheny in a second. How about this young man? Almost 1,200 yards, 1,123 yards, 21 touchdowns. And how about Port Allegheny at 5-0? But again, this Bliss kid, just amazing. Halfway through the season, and he already has almost 1,200 yards.
Here's a stat that jumps off the paper for me: 11.57 yards per carry. He's averaging. It's just an impressive number when you start and you think about that. That's 224.6 yards per game. That's amazing, really. But here's what is also amazing: the fact that Tristan Kaiser, his running mate back there, averages 108.4 yards per game. Are you kidding me? How do you stop that? That's over 332 yards on the ground between two guys per game.
Yeah.
That wasn't one game that was a fluke. It's per game.
And I think there were a lot of question marks with Port Allegheny coming into the season. There were folks that thought they were going to be better. How much better? I don't think a lot of people knew. But a few weeks ago when they took on Redbank Valley and put them in the mercy roll,
it's no secret now.
I think that got everybody's attention.
It did. One of the reasons why, I'm sure, again, you talk to the coaching staff, the players are going to say, hey, it's that big offensive line we have. Carson Neely, Juso Young, Ethan Tarbox, Tyler Philhart, and Braden Babcock. Those guys opened up quite a few holes for their running backs, and certainly it shows, again, the success that they've had, the numbers they're putting up. I sound like a broken record. It's video numbers.
Yeah.
That's the only way to explain it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you look at Central Clarion, they're at 5-0. You got Port Allegheny at 5-0. Those are a couple teams that, and I think Central Clarion, not folks are too surprised, but Port, I think, has gotten people's attention, and it'll be interesting how this rest of the season plays out, and then when those district playoffs start, how they're able to respond, when it comes to that.
One of the exciting things about Port, and I talk constantly in my broadcast career about teams built for November football. It's not as big of a factor as what it once was because there's so much turf out there, but it's still a factor. If you can run the football, good things are going to happen to you because in November, it's cold a lot of those nights. That affects the passing game. You may have the good solid surface with the artificial turf, but that ball all of a sudden becomes harder to throw, harder to catch, whereas that running back, he can cradle that, still have success. So I think some exciting times are ahead for the Port Allegheny group.
Yeah, and we'll have to find out as time goes on. And you are right, too, when you talk about the field conditions over the years and stuff and how that changed game planning. We saw a really good Clarion team years and years ago have to play at DuBois High School, and that field was just a mess.
Against
that was back, I
Carlinsville.
think, was Cathcart was playing at that time. Yep. And, it was just impossible. It was almost to move the ball, and they were used to maybe a little more of a passing attack. They ran the football really well, but they could throw the ball. And it kind of took that dimension away. So, yeah, the turf has really changed a lot of things.
It has, and I'm sure everybody feels the same way. I'm every bit as excited to see that fast surface. At least that way the passing teams do have a much better chance. But also, again, the running game can take a hold. You can get a lot of good traction. We talk about bad fields. Clarion, they won their first district championship on a bad field, but they won it because they had a good, solid team, that big offensive line, and they were able to run the football effectively that night. And Tom Burley, the quarterback, had a strong night as a thrower. He made a couple of key throws when he absolutely had to, and the team came away with their first district championship.
Yeah. I think I remember a game too. Was it Port and Clarion up at Bradford?
Yes.
And we go up, and it snowed, and people are like, are they going to play? Absolutely. But there had to be how many feet of snow on the field?
It was crazy.
2 or 3. And all they did was they took the one thing and they pushed off the lines, but they left all the snow everywhere else. And Bob says, because you were selling John Deere's, you go, I know they have an attachment, they can clean this field. They weren't cleaning the field.
Didn't want to tear the turf.
Yeah, Port ended up winning that game, I believe. But
Mortimer had a strong ball game.
Yeah, big time ball game. But I just remember that field and how the players, it was like they were trying to catch up to each other through several feet of snow. And that came to mind when you were talking about fields and different things. And I'm sure we got a lot more stories where that came from. But talking more now, we kind of talked about the running attack. How about Central Clarion? We had a forfeit, something you don't see too often in the league. Montauk ended up forfeiting with Clarion, and they cited that they had like a 32-man roster, but a lot of those guys they said were hurt and were unable to play. So, that's something unusual you don't want to see. And then for Clarion, they did try to find a game because you want to play each week, because when you miss that, that's just one, kind of sets you back a little bit. We saw a little rust when they came out against Bradford. Quickly, that rust was oiled and fixed. But, that's a tough thing for a team to deal with.
It is. You get in a routine, especially at that age. You want to have, one of the days will be your film day. The next day you'll work on offense. You'll work on defense. Then you put it all together, and then boom, next thing you know, it's game time. Well, game time didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So then you kind of always worry, I think, a little bit, can we keep everybody's focus? Can we keep their interest in the game? And because, again, remember, these are teenagers. These aren't guys getting paid the big NIL money, money in the level in which you're used to making in life. But, these are young student athletes. And obviously, they did a great job. Had a little bit of rust, but, again, some of that's timing because when you can only simulate games so much. And eventually your timing is going to be off a little bit. But they recovered and looked pretty sharp. Certainly it didn't take long to look real sharp.
And I think that's one thing, too, and hopefully it doesn't become a thing. I know in District 10 they're dealing with it right now with Kennedy Catholic, and Kennedy Catholic just has low numbers. And I don't imagine that they may. I would be shocked if they would continue after this season. But when you're dealing with depleted populations of students, and then as far as teams go, you don't have as many kids coming out. You get the injury bug that hits and some other things, and it's not real fast before a team could be depleted.
Well, you take a look. We had a group text among our EYT group here. Redbank Valley has 14 on a junior high team.
Yeah.
Which is crazy when you think about it, but they're still playing, and they're getting a lot of valuable experience at it. And you can hope now those numbers should increase a little bit because, again, a lot of the 7th grade players have elected to play the midget football versus with the 8th grade team. So, but again, you kind of like to see the numbers a little bit higher, but it is what it is. The days of families of having 4+ kids are over for the most part.
Yeah, and we see those declining enrollments all over the place in Western Pennsylvania. So, it's hard. It's hard for these coaches to get enough of the kids out and things like that. So kudos to those teams that are able to do that. And hopefully that'll continue for them. Talk a little bit about weather too. You weren't there for this one, but I think we had our longest night ever at a football game.
I wasn't there, but I was watching.
Oh, you were there. We were down at Clarion, and they were playing Brookville. And of course, Brookville had a Thursday game that week, so Brookville wanted to get that game in. And of course, too, it's hard because a lot of officials are working Saturday games now, and to get everybody back together to play. So we were down there, and boy, the storm came rolling in. They stopped it in the first quarter. We delayed the start, and then they stopped it, and we were there. And I think I got home. It was well after midnight, maybe 12:30, once we got everything put away. But the weather kind of hit everything. Saw a lot of postponements from other teams and other games, and they moved them around. But something you don't always have to deal with. But again, you err on the side of caution. Once you see that lightning, you got to wait so long and things like that. Back when we played, if with lightning, the coach would say, hey, grab that metal stick and go out there and stand and see if it hits you. If it doesn't, we're good, right?
It's funny, as I look back at my broadcast career as a player, I only remember being involved in one game, which was a Friday night, and they had to move it to Monday night. They played roughly half the game and moved it to Monday night. And that happened to me, happened to you and I guess, and Pat Kill a handful of times as broadcaster, certainly. But it's all about player and fan safety. Yeah. I remember doing a game once when Hurricane Hugo came through. And we had all the after effects. Richie Somerville and I were at Montauk. It was Montauk versus Brockway. Mm-hmm. There was not a single fan, not a single fan there, because no one in their right mind would have been there. They played the game because number one, there was no lightning. Mm-hmm. So that was okay, but just the torrential downpour. But the fact that the officials had games, we talked to them. I talked to them actually a couple years later, and it happened to be a crew also at a rain delay while we were talking about it. And they said, look, we had games Saturday afternoon, we had games Monday. There's no way, and we wanted to get that game in, and if it would have lightning, different story, but there was no lightning.
Oh, and that's how we got one of our Sunday games. Remember down at
Yes.
Redbank's football field was flooded, so they played over at
Clarion
Union High School.
versus Redbank at Union.
Yep, we were over there. So, weather does have that effect, and, wouldn't think in football as much. It used to be, too, we'd always pick on the Eastern teams, remember, when they would cancel because of heavy downpours. We don't really do that here, but boy, when that lightning comes in, it certainly has an effect on the ball game. And we also have a couple teams that have found some buys. And we talk about the forfeit, how it affects, but Keystone picked up a bye with Elk County Catholic in week 4. And for them, too, with a young team like that, maybe that was something that helped them a little bit because they are so young. Maybe it gave them a week to kind of take a deep breath, and then you come back in and you get things rolling again.
Yes, sometimes a break isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, so, all right, so that's going to wrap up this segment. We're going to take a time out. We're going to come back, and we have more coming up for you. We're going to talk a little bit of volleyball. We have some regional sports. We'll talk about Pitt, the other team that's in Pennsylvania, and some other stuff, too. It's all on the way, so that's coming up. And you are watching the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. It's here in the Haskell House in downtown Clarion, and it's live right here on exploreSportsPA.com.
You can afford a gorgeous, custom-designed hardwood Kale's kitchen for a lot less than you'd pay at a DIY store. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. At Kale's, there are never middleman markups or hidden charges that can add 40%. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. That's FactoryDirectKitchens.net.
At Clarion County Community Bank, you're more than just a number. With personalized service and modern conveniences, they make banking easy. Clarion County Community Bank, where community comes first.
Your eyes are the window to your soul, so take care of them. The Laurel Eye Clinic provides complete care from annual exams, glasses and contacts to cataract and retinal surgery, LASIK, and more. As a trusted leader in family eye care for 50 years, you can trust them with yours. Call or visit us online today.
The Cooper Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT, our most trusted truck tire, is now better than ever and available for your truck or SUV. They're designed for the reliability and durability to find adventure beyond the pavement and are backed by a Cooper mileage warranty of up to 65,000 miles. Learn more about the reliable Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT at CooperTire.com. Count on Cooper. Or stop by Carly Tires in Clarion. Carly Tires, the area's largest selection of tires.
And welcome back here to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. Mike Kalinowski, the Governor Bob Dunkle, Jake Bauer back there on his computer studying everything, and we have Tyler Oakes back there engineering. Always does a fantastic job, does Tyler. I don't know if I should say nice things, but I'm trying.
Well, it is Tyler.
Time to take a look at volleyball in the area, and boy, I'll tell you what, Clarion Limestone ranked in the state, undefeated, 8-0, and they have just been going right at it. Jenna Dunn, Maddie Greeley kind of leading the squad there as they work their way through. CL last year was able to beat their rival Clarion at one point and then beat them in the KSAC championships, and that was a big pivotal, I think, moment for them when they went up against Clarion.
It's a definite shot in the arm for the program. It's a confidence builder, no question.
And Clarion's been on top of it forever. And not that Clarion's any slouch this year either. They were just in a big tournament over the weekend down in eastern Pennsylvania, and I know they're coming back and making some noise as well, as they always do. Sherry Campbell and that crew, they're always ready to play. Also, we're looking at some of our notes here. Redbank Valley senior Taylor Ripple having a great season, and she set the school record with 35 kills against Karn City on September 17th in a 4-set win. 35 kills in a game. Her arm had to be like killing her after that, because I mean that's amazing.
That's big time, no question about it.
Well, and if you think about it, that's 35 points. So she won a game and another 10 points, for the team just by killing the ball. She had 28 kills on September 12th over Cranberry, 29 more kills on the 19th against North Clarion, and she went over the 500 career kills in the match. And, for a volleyball player, that's one of those milestone marks, like in basketball, the 1,000 points, and football, the 1,000 yards. In volleyball, boy, 500 kills is a lot for a kid.
It is. Sometimes you question whether or not a stat really tells a story. That stat definitely tells a story.
And I want to mention, too, we have Keystone. We saw them against Clarion. Very spirited match against Clarion. Clarion won that in 4 sets, but, boy, I'll tell you what, Keystone was right there in all of them. 10-1 this season under Coach Kayla McConnell, doing a very great job. Addison Say has been hitting, passing, setting, all of that, blocking, whatever she's had to do. One of the standouts for Keystone, good numbers across the board. I know Mike Kilroy mentioning here her in our stats and stuff tonight. But Keystone's one of those teams too, kind of like Clarion Limestone last year. Maybe that might be a team come playoff time, we'll see, making some noise.
Again, the record alone is speaking for itself, 10-1. And it's pretty impressive anytime, but especially with the first-year head coach.
Now let's turn our attention to some of the regional sports, and of course Penn State goes to undefeated, or stays undefeated, as they knock off Kent State 56-0, number 9 in the AP poll, so that helped them out there as they're moving up. So they will have Illinois, or as Bob says, Illinois.
I've never said that.
On Saturday night. In that last game, though, the Lions put up 718 total yards. That was a school record for them. But Penn State, of course, perennial top 25 team. This year, one of the things for them, they're going to try to make that national playoff because they have expanded that a little bit. So see kind of what happens there.
Well, I think, obviously that's the ultimate goal in their situation. And certainly they've had one of the top recruiting classes for the last 2 years in all of college football.
Well, I know you plan on being down there for whiteout and all that other stuff. So.
Well, you would be completely wrong.
But they've been rolling. So we'll see what they do this week against Illinois. Illinois ranked number 19 in the country, so 19 versus number 9, and well, you just never know. It's should be a good game coming up this Saturday night. Pitt, I'd like to talk about Pitt. Bob and I, as many of you know, have been a big Pitt fan since we were in high school, and one of the big reasons, of course, was they were really good and they had Dan Marino. That's when he was coming through. Kind of got our attention when we were kids, and I know you still have the season tickets down there. I can't because usually I'm doing a college game up here, but you've kept that. Big win over Youngstown State, 73-17. I sent you guys all a text, and I said, thank God they beat Youngstown State this year, because that one year that YSU won, it was one of the worst feelings that you ever had as a Pitt fan, but a big win for them over YSU. Redshirt transfer from Alabama. Eli Holstein threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for 2. Not ranked yet. Do you think a couple more wins maybe?
Yeah, they've got to have a couple more. Obviously, they've faced some smaller schools really get the season underway. And I think I'm one of those guys, I never get excited about these rankings. Some people, they deserve to be in the top 20. No, let their schedule speak for itself. Right now, it was Youngstown State. It wasn't USC, it wasn't Notre Dame, it wasn't UCLA, Texas, some school like that.
Yep. And the other thing too that's with Pitt, the Cincinnati game, the West Virginia game, they came out and they stunk.
Yeah.
And I remember I even texted you during that Cincinnati game. I went out in the garage and I was doing some work, kind of what I do on Sundays, and I was like, I had stuff to do. And then I came in the house and I went, oh my goodness, they're right back in the ball game, So really strong in that second half, but that's something. YSU was a different story, but they need to get fixed up before they take on UNC coming up.
Yeah, still a few bugs to get worked out, but they've come a long ways.
They certainly have. Moving on to the Pirates, of course, one of their few bright spots this year, but I'll tell you what, he's been a heck of a ball player. Rookie Paul Skeens, again, 5 shutout innings against the Reds, 1.99 ERA on the season, picked up his 11th win, and of course, he is the favorite to win the NL Rookie of the Year. He has, I think Jackson Merrill out of the Padres is a close second. But I didn't realize this, but Jake was giving us some notes on this, that only one Pirate had ever won the Rookie of the Year, and that was Jason Bay, and that was 20 years ago. So kind of
It is kind of
interesting.
surprising with the wealth of talent they had in the 70s, certainly.
Oh, absolutely. So we'll see what happens with Skeens. A lot of people are like, too, you know, and it's different, too. We talk about quarterbacks, how different it is today and everything else. But a lot of people always wonder, why don't they leave them in and let them complete these games and stuff? But it's a whole different ballgame today because they protect these guys a little bit more. But it's just different how coaches go about the game. And if they have that lead late in the game with the star pitcher, a lot of times they're gonna pull him. They're gonna see and let things go to the
And
bullpen.
they're looking at, you know, whether anybody always wants to admit or not. There's a pitch count. It's always a huge
absolutely.
factor. I mean, I think that guy could throw a baseball through that brick here right now. As far as that goes, I'd never want to have to face him. But you know, certainly that has to somewhere along the line take its toll. And I think that they're looking out for his longevity. Certainly a younger player, they want to keep him around as long as they possibly can.
And a hard thrower too. You know, he's one of those guys, you never know, you know, as far as pitching goes. A lot of times those hard throwers, but I think the way they've gone about him too and the way he's also, you know, got himself in shape and stuff too, I think is something that's going to help him have a little more longevity than sometimes you'd see those big throwers of the past with their arms. Pirates home against the Brewers. That'll be tonight through Thursday. Wrap up the season against the Yankees in the Bronx over the weekend. That should be interesting as that comes up. One quick note too, Rowdy Tellez and Michael A. Taylor today were designated for assignment, so probably they're not going to be part of the club coming up. So there you go. That's a look at some of the regional sports. We'll take one more quick time out. We're going to wrap this thing up, and you are watching the what is it? The Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. We're live here from the Haskell House in downtown Clarion. That's why I looked over here on exploreClarion.com.
This is a great show.
Hey, check out this all-new 2024 Chevrolet Trax 1RS in cacti green. Let's talk about some of those safety features. We have blind spot monitoring system, we have forward collision system with alert and brake, and we have lane departure warning as well. How about the gas mileage?
30 miles per gallon average. Yeah, it's great.
People really love those safety features like blind spot monitoring, forward collision warning with alert and braking, and lane departure warning.
Bumper-to-bumper warranty and the 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty.
And check out the clarity on this backup camera on this 11-inch touchscreen.
It's great.
Can you believe you get all the features like heated steering wheel, heated seats, remote start, power sunroof, all for $24,900?
That's a great value in a new Chevrolet.
Hey, check out this Glacier Blue RST Silverado 4x4 Z71 four-wheel drive, 5.3 liter V8. It's a really nice, sharp truck. All LT and RST Silverados have this same interior. Got this really large touchscreen display, built-in Google Maps, heated seats, automatic climate control, heated steering wheel. We have a backup camera, really great display,
and all the safety aspects. Adaptive parking, adaptive braking, pedestrian braking, blind spot mitigation.
Follow us to Redbank Chevrolet.
All right, welcome back here to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show here from the Haskell House in Clarion. Getting set to wrap things up here, Governor Bob. It was interesting. I enjoyed talking about a lot of the different quarterbacks and, of course, you coming back and the running and all of the other great stuff that we had a chance to talk about. And hopefully folks found it interesting.
I think they did, or I hope they did. You know, I'm really looking forward to, certainly had a lot of fun tonight, but I'm looking forward to Friday night.
Yep, we're going to be down at Karn City High School on Friday night coming up. And it will be a Central Clarion Karn City. And you want to talk about a game that's going to be some smash mouth football. That's going to be it down there. So hope you can join us with that one. Also, next week coming up, we'll have Dave Cadis hosting. I think we're going to be out at Clarion Limestone for that one. They're talking about his guest, but with Cadis, it's tough to get a guest because most people are like, who's interviewing me? Cadis. I don't want to do that. So that happens sometimes. Autumn Leaf Festival coming up this Sunday through the following weekend. Bob, huge on the Autumn Leaf Festival. I'm surprised you weren't the Grand Marshal this year, like leading the parade.
Well, I think it'll be more than a couple of years till we see that happen.
And one of the things, it seems like it's become like something that everyone looks forward to every year. Is it going to be Dustin Kiefer and Justin Dudley this year?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Last year you said, there we go, that's a star.
I loved that last year. Had a ball.
So that's coming up. The parade will be broadcast here on Explore Clarion, and so Dustin Kiefer, Justin Dudley will be on that. And if you haven't heard Kiefer and Dudley, especially Dudley, you're missing something. So you want to tune in for that. I know
Very entertaining.
I got ripped on last year. I walked into the one establishment up the street where Justin works, and I heard, Mr. K, I'm sorry, I said everything I did about you. I said, I didn't even hear what it was, because I had Justin as a student when I was at Clarion Limestone. But coverage of the Kitty Parade, the Tournament of Leaves Parade, we're going to have food reviews as the week goes on, and other videos. Those are all brought to you by Luton's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. You want to thank Luton's for that. I also forgot to mention in the volleyball segment, Gatesman's Auto Body is the sponsor for our volleyball here on EYT, and we got to thank them for that, because without them it certainly doesn't happen. So we'll see some of the different foods and things like that. Maybe entice Bob to come up and sign some autographs and walk around and maybe get a sandwich.
How much is the pay?
Well, maybe they'll have you do a food review. You never know. Jake, he might be giving you a call.
I'm on a fixed income, you know.
All right. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of tonight's show. We do want to thank you for being here and watching, and hopefully you enjoyed the program this week. We'll be back next week with more coming up on Thursday night, and that'll wrap things up for the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show here from the Haskell House in Clarion. Good night from the Haskell House.
Have a great day.